Max Orland, Melbourne Football Club. You're listening to the Coaches Panel.
This is Nat Fyfe from the Fremantle Footy Club.
Trent Cotchin from the Richmond Footy Club.
Scott Pendlebury from the Collingwood Football Club. You're listening to the Coaches Panel.
Patrick Cooch from the Carlton Footy Club.
It's Rory Sloane here from the Adelaide Crows.
This is Tom Mitchell. You're listening to the Coaches Panel.
Isaac Cumming is going from the Giants and is heading towards the Adelaide Crows. He's officially playing for the South Australian-based club where he is originally from as an unrestricted free agency move. How big of a win could this be for the Adelaide Crows? And how significant a loss is this for the Giants? And what does it mean for us that play fantasy footy heading into 2025? We're going to unpack this and more on today's episode as we look at Isaac Cumming and what it means for us that play fantasy footy. If you're not familiar with the style and play of Isaac, chances are you've probably only been keeping an eye on fantasy footy for the last year or two. And unfortunately, he's missed a lot of footy over the past 12 months. Just a handful of games in the home and away season, plus through the AFL finals. But at his best, he is the dynamic sort of player that every AFL club wants to get their hands on. An elite outside runner with some high top-end speed that saw him at the Giants be able to be utilised across a number of link-up and transition positions through the half-back flank, the half-forward line, and most recently across the wing. He's got elite speed, but it's not the only skill set that he has. He's also a really strong, penetrating ball user. And when you put those skills together, man, he makes himself an exciting prospect and has been so for the Giants when injury has not culled his ability to be at his best. Elite runner, high-quality ball user, can get into space and then set up his teammates getting into space with that quality use. So this is a high-quality prospect that the Crows could be adding to their side, and we'll talk about what it means for them in a moment. But from a Giants perspective, what does it mean? Well, in part, they've kind of been protected a little bit from this loss in many regards. Like I said, he's only played a handful of games this year. So the backup plans that they've had to utilize has meant that Isaac, while when injury-free is best 22 for the club, they've had to utilize other options. We've seen players like a Josh Kelly move a little bit more to the wing. Finn Callaghan, who still played some wing but started to slip into that inside midfield role. And then they've got this elite smalls unit that are really picking up and pushing up high through the ground. Darcy Jones, McMullen, just to name a few. And then you've got some other guys that are waiting in the wings should opportunities need to arise, such as Orion Angwin, who's been given some opportunities through there as well. And then you've got a Lockie Ash, who's floated between that halfback and wing role. Lockie Whitfield, while more settled across halfback recently, has played through that wing spot under Adam Kingsley most predominantly. So while the Giants are probably a little sad to see him go, it's not like they don't have options to replace this utility link-up player across halfback and through the wing. So I think while the Giants would prefer to have kept him, I'm not too sure they'll be devastated. They've done a great job ever since their inception at taking the draft picks they get, bundling them up to get higher up the draft, and or they've then taken picks to the draft and really targeted for needs. So if they're feeling like they're lacking in that transition and link up and run and carry player, expect them to use one of those draft picks they have this year on that. I think they've got enough depth. From a Crows perspective, this could be one of the big gains for them. There's been two knocks on the Crows list structure, and it's around two core areas. One, lacking some high-end ball use and lacking some top-end speed. As I've mentioned, Isaac has both of those skill sets. Whether he plays in the more core midfield group, well, he'll add some speed and skill through a midfield dynamic that while Lockie Scholl's a good elite runner, he's not a high-end speed type of prospect. He's just an endurance up and back the ground. So he would add something significant to a midfield that has names such as Crouch, Laird, Dawson, Berry. Saligo's not slow, but I wouldn't say he's fast either. So he would add something if he was to play across the wing. He could play inside as a centre-bounce midfielder, but I think it's more likely they want that skill and speed on the outside of the contest. They're not lacking for prospects in there. So if he plays on the wing, it could be really, really handy. I think what's more likely, reading the tea leaves, is that he's stationed across halfback.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Brodie Smith, for a long portion of his career, was that elite ball user with high-end speed. But over the last 12 to 24 months, both of those one-woods, for sake of a better term, have eluded him. And so as a result, he's found himself out of the side. And the Crows, between him and an injured Wayne Miller, just don't have that reliable speed and skill coming off halfback. I think that's where he belongs best, and as a result probably could be utilised at his absolute peak of his powers. If he sits in that spot, for those of us that play SuperCoach and AFL Fantasy, this is where we could see him return to his glory days of 2022, where he averaged 90 plus across the formats. He's got multiple years where he's averaging in and around the top 10 to 15 defenders of the seasons. And if he can get back to that distribution role for the Crows, wow, this could be a spectacular gain for us. And it's for a number of reasons. One, he averaged in the mid-60s this year across the formats. So already, just 2 years removed, we're getting potentially 20 to 25, gosh, even up to 30 points per game of upside if he can recapture that scoring of 2022. But the good news is he in Dream Team and SuperCoach will get a significant discount off that mid-60s average, given he only played a handful of games this season. It could see him priced, gosh, into the 50s, low 40s, depending on the level of discount that we see him land. And all of a sudden, we're now talking, even if he doesn't get up to the 90s average, 30, 40 points per game of upside. And so that could be incredibly significant. AFL Fantasy, his 2023 season, while not as bad, quote unquote, as this last year in 2024, it's not a significant discount. They will always award it based off historical ways they do it, of the highest 2 averages of the previous seasons. They'll go, all right, season 1, season 2, which is higher. All right, we'll award the discount that we want to reward to that year. So he'll still have some value and upside, but it won't be as highly relevant and as much potential upside as what Dream Team and SuperCoach. I think he's going to land 2025 with midfield status, but that could be some great news for coaches, getting some value late on draft day. But it will make it hard for coaches in Classic to pick him in and around that sort of 50s average in SuperCoach and Dream Team, and probably in that 60s space of fantasy. He has to pop that 90s, if that's the case in fantasy, for it to really return supreme value, because you're picking him against other breakout prospects and some uncertainty, at least here in October right now, about his exact defined role at the Crows. I think it's off that halfback. I think he's going to really push that 90s average, but will be a midfielder only. Regardless, in Classic, he's relevant and he's someone we need to seriously consider and have a look at. Structurally, it might not be for everybody, a player in that sort of price range that you're looking at, but he's definitely going to present a minimum of 20 points per game of upside, which clears the threshold that you've got to at least consider him. While on draft day, where does he go? In part, it links to how much preseason hype there is in the salary cap community, but I think he absolutely should be drafted. He should pick up DPP if he plays that distribution off halfback role and really push that top 20 sort of defender average with relative ease, and could, if all things go his way, push towards that top 10 across the formats. So Isaac Cumming joining the Adelaide Crows, absolutely relevant. Put him in your black book. It could be a name that could be of huge relevance and upside for you in 2025. But what do you think about Isaac Cumming and his fantasy prospects? Comment and let us know what you're thinking about Isaac Cumming as a prospect for you in 2025. If you're loving this series, the good news is every single player that moves clubs via the trade or free agency mechanism, we are dropping an episode exclusively about them. You can check it out on YouTube. YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, turn notifications on, so as soon as the episode goes live, you get notified. We're dropping these as an audio podcast as well, and make sure you follow us wherever you get your audio podcasts from, and leave a 5-star rating and review. We'll be back again real soon talking about another player that's moved clubs that could be relevant for your fantasy side in 2025.